process governing them, so they don't need any council decisions or directions. They will eventually need council if the SSS and SCA merges.
That was one thing that was just said at the SSCA. When something comes up, you go back to your council, talk to your council, and you can come, with an enlightened decision with respect to what council wants. And that was a comment that was made at the last SSCA.
Yeah, there's. Anyways,
Well, if you don't think there's a need,
no, it's not that. I don't think there's a need. I mean, it should SSS and SSEA merge, then that decision, because those are that decision would need to come to from council to allow the merger, I think. But I don't know how much of this is fully discussed. I don't think it's confidential anymore, but I don't know the SSS merger with the SSEA. I don't think it's confidential anymore. It's been in the minutes and stuff, and those are all public. But I don't know. Yeah, so it's not confidential, I don't think, anymore. It was for a little bit when they started the preliminary conversations, but I don't know how much they've actually sat down and figured out whether or not it's possible and what would need to come to each of the councils on it. It's still pretty preliminary. I think the fact that if they know about it, that's enough at this point until we get some further direction. That's yeah.
the other one, the CCP, that's climate, that's community energy plan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know we talked about that at SSS, but I thought the idea of SSS was that they were going to do this. Tracy was going to do this project, and then we came back and said, let's do some small things well instead of tackling new big projects. So I think the energy planning information and that one. Oh.
Okay. I'll leave it then.
Okay. There we go. Alrighty, Council. I'll call us to order at 6:30 for our special council meeting. First in front of us is a declaration of pecuniary interest. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in the special council? Seeing none at this time, let us know if you do find yourself in that spot, and we'll address it appropriately. Item number 3 is communications and correspondence, of which we have none. So we'll move right into in-camera items. And I need a mover and seconder for the following motion: that in accordance with the Town of Penetanguishene Procedural Bylaw 2016-08, the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene move into an in-camera session to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Councillor LaRue, Councillor Rawson, comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And we'll adjourn to in-camera.
Do you want me to come in? Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. It's a little bit, though. It's wafted its way in here.
How are things? Good?
Yeah, they're okay. You'll see something coming up that I have. So we have a downtown improvement committee, and they wanted to do a video promoting downtown.
Is this Betty Crompton and the whole
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake
Yeah.
song? Yes. love
Yeah.
it.
So we were going down that path,
Yes.
and we were going to go get Georgian College students to do it, and not Nate LaCroix.
Cool.
And so we started down that path, and then one of the council meetings, a local business owner said, well, what about doing the Great Places Tea commercial out of CTV? And we said, where's this coming from? So that's a recommendation to do that commercial this year, and that we would apply to RTO7
I
for
was just gonna
funding.
say, they have a video funding, so it's, I think, $1,700 you need to come up with, and they'll match it, and they send their record of agency, who's Brian Hunt, who's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's the two things I'm looking at. One is the image production,
yes.
because we need a lot of really good pictures. And the second is this video, but it'd be a 2018 project, because I don't think I can squeeze thousands of dollars out of these guys. So it won't be to 2018, so I'm kind of like,
So I'm putting it, it's tricky, but I am putting in an
Right.
application to tourism Central County.
Right.
And they require matching dollars, and so does RTO7, so I'm using both of those applications against each other for a fusion of projects. Which I've talked to both parties, and
Sorry.
that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So that's something we could do together, like I would have to apply on behalf, but I think that's fine.
see, because we're going to be very specific about Penetanguishene, and I've said in the past that you can't really do that. You have to be the whole region. There's a little wiggle room in there.
It's a little bit of wiggle room.
Okay.
As long as it's promoting like,
Tourism.
shopping is tourism, like right, like prosperity, so.
Yeah.
Sort of like come to the downtown core, the tank machine.
Yeah. Well, the thing, the only problem is what I saw in their guidelines.
They get like a logo crazy, like it would be tourism or the Ontario government's logo. Like,
Yeah,
so on and so on.
and that's what I saw through it, is that the video funding is only for 60-second videos. So the commercial works, but I don't think they can fund that. I don't think they would do that. But then the Justin Timberlake song is longer than that.
Right.
So I was like, what are we going to do with this 30-second or 60-second? 30 to 60 seconds, I think, is what they recommend. So I have another idea for that. So I get the Georgian College students to do the Justin Timberlake song
Yes.
this fall, and next year do something different. And I got to talk to this guy about Main Street storytelling.
Yeah?
Experience development.
Yeah. So when you're digging up Main Street and you find something cool, stop production, stop construction. We'll get the video crew down there, and you can pull stuff out of the dirt and be like, look what we found from 1820s. And you're like,
Or just pretend, just grab a prop and be like, what?
yeah. Brian will be like, Andrea, I am not telling you a thing if we find stuff.
All righty, council, I'll look for a mover and seconder for the following motion, that the council of the town of Penetanguishene rise from the in-camera session with a report. Moved by Councillor Rawson, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Dubois.
Wet curtains stunk. So we pulled them off last Friday and put them away.
All in favor? That is carried. I'll look for a mover and seconder for the following motion. The council select option 1, that council deem the property at 132 Church Street surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that as per bylaw 2008-22, staff be directed to proceed with the valuation of 132 Church Street and be advertised for sale through a public tender process, and that the clerk be directed to provide notice as per bylaw 2010-47. And finally, that the chief administrative officer be authorized to negotiate as an agent for council. Mover and seconder, Councillor Rawson, Councillor LaRue. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Final item from in camera, and we need a mover and seconder for the following motion, that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene accept the CEO goals for 2017 as presented. Councillor Rawson, Councillor Lauder. Comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor? That is carried. And I'm sure we have no questions from the media and public because we came from in camera, so you're totally going, what are they talking about? So we'll go past there. Announcements or inquiries? Anybody have announcements or inquiries? I think we can save them for the next part anyways, when we talk about Volunteer Week and when Rogers is fired up. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Rawson, Councillor LaRue, and so Stacey, we adjourned at 6:48 p.m. All righty, Council, I'll call us to order at 7 o'clock, and I'll welcome our guests here tonight. So welcome. We've got 3 or 4 presentations tonight, and I thank those who are watching us on live stream tonight and will watch us on Rogers on Friday evening. Council, if you can join me in the council commitment, please. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed upon Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here to assist us in promoting good government, may our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 3, approval of the agenda, and it's moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of April 26, 2017 be approved as presented. Comments and questions on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for vote then. All in favor? And that is carried, and that agenda is approved. Moving on to declarations of pecuniary interest. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in tonight's session? Seeing none at this time, if you find yourself in that position as we move along, let us know and we'll address it appropriately. Move on to item number 5, which is presentations, and we have 3 tonight. And the first one up is the Economic Development Corporation of North Simcoe, and Sharon's here to give us a quarterly update. So Sharon, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Marshall, for the introduction. Mayor Marshall, councillors, staff, and guests. 3 EDCNS board members are with us today. Roy Ellis, Vice Chair and Manufacturing Ambassador, and Councillor Debbie Levy, she's absent. She represents the town of Penetanguishene on our Board of Directors. And Lois Lipton is here with us tonight. My presentation addresses the manufacturing sector as Tiny Township Councillor Cindy Hastings on the Farm Fresh Food Fest event, and Brittany Black from North Simcoe Tourism will follow. Both are EDCNS umbrella organizations. You'll recall in 2015 we established the Destination Marketing Organization, North Simcoe Tourism, and we continue to provide financial support which enables program fund leveraging. The agriculture sector was established by EDCNS and spearheaded by board member Paul Maurice and is being led to success by Councillor Hastings. All 3 organizations collaborate, creating a strong impact for North Simcoe. Combined, there are 3.5 staff supported by over 30 dynamic volunteers. I will target our manufacturing sector achievements, marketing and media accomplishments, our scorecard, and funding progress. CTV News produced a 3-part series highlighting North Simcoe's innovative and progressive manufacturers. Please enjoy Part 2, Industrial Filter Manufacturing and Weber Manufacturing Technologies, speak to growth with a focus on talent, skilled trades, and business expansion.
This giant block of steel weighs several tons. It's being shaped with a milling machine. This is the first step in making a mold that will later be used to manufacture aircraft parts. Weber Manufacturing also creates specialized tooling for automakers.
So we do a lot of work for Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, the Aston Martin. These are just to name a few that we've built tools for over the last few years. Right now is a nickel shell.
The company's patented mold-making technology is one part of its success. The other is diversification. In 2013, Weber started using its own molds to manufacture fiberglass doors and hasn't looked back. Chris Edwards says Canadian manufacturers can compete.
Sometimes in other countries, they have that low labor factor, but they don't have the technology or the innovation to bring a good quality product to market.
The ongoing success here is creating jobs for skilled tradespeople, as well as on-the-job training opportunities.
That's why it's worth the drive over to Midland. It's because upon getting this job here and doing the co-op and these opportunities, it's really shown me the potential careers that there are within this industry for young people.
Not far away, there's another company enjoying success. Industrial Filter Manufacturing in Penetanguishene makes specialized filters for industrial liquids. Here, too, investments in technology have paid off.
And that allowed us to add automation and integrate processes that made us very competitive on a global scale, and now we're selling our products in about 30 countries around the world.
1 year ago, there were 26 people working here. Today, there are 40.
And we're still advertising for more bodies and have empty positions to fill.
Weber Manufacturing is also looking for more people who are experienced machinists or anybody with mechanical aptitude who's willing to learn a new trade. Roger Klein, CTV News, Midland.
Now, Part 1 introduced EDCNS. Part 3 features Frankie Kindred for developing a revolutionary hygiene sink, MediFlow, the healthcare industry designed to mitigate by reducing biofilm. Links to all videos are on the EDCNS website. Reflective of the success we share, in 2016 we produced the Magic of North Simcoe video, which won a national award competing with 148 submissions from across Canada. The County of Simcoe was a winner of a national and provincial award for the Skilled Trades Expo. May 24th is the date of the next expo. And in his capacity as warden, Mayor Jerry Marshall won Community Influencer of the Year for advancing economic development across the province. North Simcoe outpaced national and provincial job growth in all industries in 2014-2015 at 2.3% growth. New stats show the number of manufacturing jobs to now be 4,233, which means from 2014 to 2016, manufacturing growth in North Simcoe was over 3%. EDCNS website visits were up 384 and 379% in February and March, respectively, mostly due to our Skilled Trades Talent Initiative. The bottom line, manufacturing is by far the largest employer in North Simcoe, representing approximately 20% of all jobs. Executives from the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, known as CME, participate in most of our 5 manufacturing roundtables. CME is working with the federal government to create a national advanced digital manufacturing supercluster designed to help manufacturers adopt new technologies, thus becoming more globally competitive. As confirmed in the video, North Simcoe manufacturers are in this manufacturing supercluster. EDCNS, in partnership with the county, key educators, our local manufacturers embrace skilled trades to enable growth for North Simcoe's dynamic and innovative manufacturing base. The Skilled Trades Talent Recruitment Program is a North Simcoe strategy developed and implemented by EDCNS through an innovative funding model, coupled with strong leadership from our manufacturing subcommittee. The Skilled Trades Talent Initiative was developed and executed. The 11 manufacturers participating in the program are listed on the ad with their logos on the slide. To create the story, EDCNS conducted a survey looking out 8 years, identifying manufacturers' skilled trades needs to include both growth and succession. The immediate gap to fill 110 positions resulted in the call to action slogan, "Wanted 110 talented employees now" in North Simcoe, Midland, Penetanguishene, Tay, tiny. As illustrated on the last slide, the 3 execution tactics to market the message and talent opportunity are Tier 1, print advertisements, Tier 2, colleges, Tier 3, public talent boards. Tier 1, print advertisements were placed in 7 locations across Ontario with 8 full-size ads, selected to coordinate with the colleges offering programs matching the manufacturer's needs. Commentary and follow-up media of the program, including the CTV 3-part series, has been exceptional. You are welcome to look at this advertising campaign, which shows the ads and follow-up media that we've had from this campaign. Tier 2 engaged Ontario's colleges selected to match the training needs of North Simcoe employers. Tier 3, targeted electronic publication occurred in 3 online job boards: Indeed, Job Central, and Simcoe.com, a division of Metroland Media. 66,000 visitors go to the website monthly. 33,000 impressions of our ad were online in March. Now a comment on how we made this happen. The advertisement is posted on the EDCNS website with information on job availability and links to websites specific to each of the manufacturers. We also receive applications which are forwarded to the manufacturers. While the campaign is ongoing, we have received positive feedback affirming the campaign was of significant value in creating awareness of our innovative and growing manufacturing cluster, while assisting with fulfilling their immediate talent needs at a very low cost. For these reasons, interest in a second campaign was expressed. We engaged the manufacturing community through one-on-one meetings, ongoing discussion, 5 roundtables, and a prosperity summit. The success of our partnership with key stakeholders led to the Deputy Minister of Advanced Education and Skills Development requesting a forum with our manufacturers to address the education curriculum requirements. And to support the needs of our emerging manufacturers, a new initiative focused on growth and expansion is on the agenda for Q2. We affectionately call this Mini-Me. Manufacturing is alive and well. The EDCNS Investment Execution Scorecard is a high-level list of actions. I will touch on just a few. Yellow appears with the sale of the Pillsbury plant. We courted an investor for 1.5 years. Closing did not meet General Mills' timeline. An offer is in play, which we understand will be good for North Simcoe. Our visioning session in February put the focus on business retention and expansion. I continue to generate leads, 200 calls in Q1. Our monthly board meetings are ambitious, so we set aside an evening next week to confirm our vision, refine our value proposition, and further define our 2017 work plan. Our manufacturing and tourism sectors are in high gear, so now it's time to intensify the agriculture focus. The scorecard emphasizes the agriculture sector by building a dynamic database and creating new and relevant growth opportunities. We also support our agriculture pillar by submitting and administering applications for funding, including funding for summer students who will be housed at North Simcoe Tourism. This is one of many examples of EDCNS and the 2 sectors, agriculture and tourism, leveraging resources through collaboration. The EDCNS website is more robust and investment-friendly, with data relevant for site selectors, investors, and brokers, made possible through an approved submission for federal cost-share funding to ICCI. As mentioned, EDCNS funds North Simcoe Tourism Core Operation, which enables the Destination Marketing Organization to leverage grants. To summarize, we remain focused on marketing and promotion, which continues to create awareness of North Simcoe as a destination of choice, meaning to live, work, and play in the heart of Georgian Bay. While business attraction remains a priority, keeping and creating jobs with innovative strategies is job number one. To this end, 40% of EDCNS time allocation is now dedicated to business retention and growth. We have enjoyed strong success leveraging funding. Our scorecard evolves and keeps us honest as we continue to raise the bar. I wish to thank the town of Penetanguishene for your continued financial support, representative of your confidence in EDCNS. I welcome your comments or questions.
Thank you very much, Council. Any questions for Sharon on this? I know we do get your weekly updates, so we're in pretty good tune on all of this. Well, you're off the hook for questions, so thank you very much for the presentation and job well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And staying on economic development for a moment longer, North Simcoe Tourism, which is a large part of our economic development here in the county as well. So I got Brittany Black coming up. So Brittany, welcome. Good to see you again. And we've got Roy handing out some brochures. Vanna White, thank you.
Oops. Oh, no. Good morning, Your Worship, councillors, and staff. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm here tonight to give you a brief update on what the Heart of Georgian Bay has been up to for the past 4 months since our last council presentation. Now, I've brought a few samples of our work and partnership efforts with Tourism Simcoe County and Ontario's Lake Country, which I will show you some examples here. I'd like to start by highlighting our first ever Heart of Georgian Bay Discovery Guide, which has been well received by the community and industry partners. We have printed 40,000 copies and distributed them to all hotels, attractions, and information centers throughout Simcoe County and along the 400 and 401 corridors. As part of our brand awareness and brand ambassador program, we have also completed a mail out to all North Simcoe residents. Inside your packages, you will also find the latest 2017 TARE map, highlighting all area attractions in North Simcoe. This map will be used locally to move people around while they are here, in hopes that they may stay longer and spend more money in our communities. We have printed 50,000 of them and have just begun distribution. The Heart of Georgian Bay cycling map was a part of a larger cycling partnership between ourselves, Tourism Simcoe County, Ontario's Lake Country, Blue Mountain Village Association, South Georgian Bay, the Town of Blue Mountains, and RTO7, also known as Bruce Gray Simcoe. The project consisted of 3 area maps, one of which you have in your package. It also included the development of new cycling routes and overnight packages, including collateral to be used in promotion of these experiences through video, imagery, digital advertising, print ads, radio advertising, as well as blog posts and media reviews. Digital campaigns were targeted to the Quebec market, and results show that there were 16,000 sessions on the Cycle Simcoe website and over 300 map mailing requests from the Quebec region alone. For the first time this year, the Heart of Georgian Bay joined forces with Ontario's Lake Country in their Tap Into Maple program. This was a cooperative marketing campaign that included a brochure, posters, downloadable coupons, targeted digital and social media campaigns, a media tour, and a radio campaign. The media tour was a very successful portion of this program, as the results show that we received great exposure from many, many publications, including 2 seen here from the London Free Press and the Chinese newspaper Epoch Times. We have been working very hard this winter on a county-wide winter campaign project for 2018. In tourism, we must plan, work, and think a year out. So in order to make sure that marketing, promotional messages, and our products and experiences are market ready. So I'm just going to give you a little sneak peek of a few videos from our video series of our We Do Winter Well campaign.
There are over 595 different plant and animal species that call the Wymarsh home, which includes a number of species at risk. So this particular area is pretty unique. We also touch on tiny township, town of Midland, and our home Tay Township. So we span a very wide area. The great thing about snowshoeing is that it's very easy to do, so it doesn't require a lot of training, and it's really easy to pick up. And pretty much anybody who can walk can go for a snowshoe hike. I think that the real reason that snowshoeing here at the Wymarsh is so fun and great is that we do have a lot of different activities that can actually add to your snowshoeing experience. So you can hike down to see the trumpeter swans, you can hike along the trail and feed the chickadees as you go, and you can just spend a lot of great time in a safe environment experiencing winter and getting out there and getting active in the winter months. We offer affordable rental opportunities, so we do have modern snowshoes, so the plastic ones with the metal bottoms. We also have traditional snowshoes, the good old-fashioned wood with the sinew. We want to provide people with that opportunity to come out and try it. I would have to say one of the most frequently heard things that we hear at the front desk when people are packing it in for the day is that they loved it and they had a wonderful experience. Our number one goal is for people to come in and have a positive marsh memory. We want them to come in and experience nature and then leave here with memories that will last them through years.
I'm just going to play another one for you here.
Snowmobiling is great because it's for kids from 2 years old, and my mother, who's 84, goes out in snowmobiles. So you don't have to have any experience, and again, it's not physically demanding, so anybody can do it. We have all the gear, so if people come up from the city or come from another country, they don't have to worry about having anything. We have our boots, our coats, our hats, our helmets, balaclavas and gloves, and obviously the snowmobiles too. We give all the maps, the trail permits are on the snowmobiles, and with complete instruction. This area is really neat because a lot of the trails actually go right onto the ice too. So you're getting a little bit of both. The trail system is graded by the Georgian Bay Snow Riders Association, and they do an amazing job. And then the ice is just a whole other world. When you get out there, it's beautiful, it's calm, and there's different islands that you can stop off and have a cookout or whatever. So it's just really different than you might get in other areas. Sometimes I have clients call me from Toronto and say, there's no snow here, how's the snow? And we've got a pile of snow. So just because in the city there isn't any, we've got lots up here. It's winter wonderland. 90 minutes up the road, and it's just completely different.
And one last one that's very, very short. It's just a mashup that we would use in social media. So I've just shown you many examples of marketing and promotional materials that we have been busy developing, but just to give you an idea of what we have been working on behind the scenes, here are a few administrative projects that are in the works. First off, our board of directors and staff are just finalizing a 5-year strategic plan and vision, which we will be sure to share with all of you upon completion. With that, we are working on aligning this year's operational plan to meet those strategic objectives while leveraging funding where it is available and needed. With the 2017-18 operating plan, we will be applying for the Tourism Simcoe County Development Fund, as well as identifying opportunities through RTO7 partnership programs, the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sports Tourism Development Fund, as well as Ontario Tourism Partnership Corporation's partnership funding programs. And that is everything for today. I just want to thank you again for having me tonight, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on tourism? Deputy Mayor, please.
Just wanted to comment, I really like the whole idea of partnerships. I think that's the way of the future, so that's a good move.
Definitely.
Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments or questions for Brittany? Okay, other than my compliments as well, job well done, great job, keep up the good work, and look forward to your next update. They're always encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so staying on economic development and tourism of some nature, we've got the Farm Fresh Food Fest, and I said that perfectly this time. I usually stutter over that one. And we have Cindy Hastings joining us. Cindy's the chair of Farm Fresh Food Fest, and she's also a councillor in the Township of Tiny. So Cindy, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council and staff. Thank you for having me here. I will be super quick. I think it's been about a year since I was here last, and I just want to make sure that you're up to date on all our plans. So thank you again. So what is Farm Fresh Food Fest? As Sharon mentioned, it was a concept that originated through the EDCNS as it supports the agricultural pillar of the corporation as well as the tourism pillar as well. We've tried very hard to succinctly describe what the event is, so we've come up with Farm Fresh Food Fest as a celebration of our agricultural industry and local culture. It offers the opportunity for consumers to learn about the food they eat through direct interactions and experiences with farmers, industry specialists, and food entrepreneurs. We have it's a pretty lofty goal. We'd like to attract 10,000 visitors. I'll take 5, but I'd like 10. We're trying to promote as you know, we have a wonderful wealth of local food businesses and artisans, and of course we want to celebrate our heritage in the heart of Georgian Bay. I'm just going to go quickly through the highlights for each of the days. So it starts off on August 18th, which is a Friday. We're honored to have Jeff Leal do the opening ceremonies. That'll probably be around 1 o'clock. We're really focusing on children's activities. So we've invited all the local area day camps to come that day, and we have some special activities for them. We partnered with University of Guelph. They have their STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math activities. We'll have Will Barrett, I believe, has some stuff coming from Huronia Historical Parks. And just trying to remember, a gentleman is doing some loops through tours through the bush as well, and we'll of course have animal displays, crop plots, and lots of local vendors, food entrepreneurs, as I mentioned before, and local entertainment. So I usually have my team here to remind me of all the good stuff that I'm missing, so I apologize. Friday evening is the Three Sisters Feast. So we've invited Carolyn Bennett to open this meal. Nick Berduris from Cafe Ste. Marie will be doing this meal along with his team. We'll have Métis dancers. Again, Huronia Historical Parks will be helping out with cultural interpreters for that day. And we'll be selling tickets online. That should be coming up soon, as well as through local businesses. So Saturday, we've partnered with the Simcoe County Plowing Match. So that's something that typically the farmers go to, but this will be an opportunity for us non-farmers to see this. Our MC again is Judy Foodie, Judy Scott Weldon. She'll be doing the MCing for both days. We have Frank Ferragini coming about midday to do presentation on his book, Food to Grow. Really neat addition. He's there both days. Dylan Shear is a student from the University of Guelph who is actually not a farmer, but he's an agricultural business student, and he's developing a project, a film for the TIFF for 2018 about agriculture. So it's a really interesting perspective, so he'll be speaking both days. And of course, we've added a tractor and equipment parade. So this went over really, really well last year in La Fontaine for Festival de Loup. People were fascinated by the large equipment, and so we're adding that at the beginning of the day. And I know my team has been putting together some really some more interesting things for Saturday. Saturday evening is the 100-mile dinner. We're very lucky to have Andre and Sibella TC and a team to do this meal. Another partnership is we'll be doing the Simcoe County Food Alliance Awards this evening. So this is their 5-year anniversary, so kind of a neat, they wanted to do something a little bit special, and this really fits well with our event and what they're trying to promote as well. And we have the DeSotos coming in the evening for entertainment. During the meal, we'll of course have some wonderful local entertainment. And Sunday, we're very happy. This is a new addition. We received great support for this. So it's an interfaith service followed by a community breakfast, and a really nice way for us to thank our volunteers for the event. So just very quickly, we have a lot of space for vendors. Very ambitious. I'd love to see 300, but they tell me maybe that's a little ambitious for the first year. But that's what we're aiming for. We're trying to keep the price really low to encourage all our smaller local vendors to come as well. The really great thing is we're building out the website, and what we want to do is when the vendor signs on, they'll be able to upload their profile, and we want to be able to highlight them, so 365 days, not just for the event, but be able to have these vendor profiles on there all year long. Lots of great exhibitors, a lot of I call them marketing boards, but they're coming to speak to the consumer, because it's an agricultural show, but it's for the consumer, so a little bit different. And I know I mentioned this last time, but just in case you forgot, it's in Tiny Township. It's 4230 Crossland Road, so close to the border with Wasaga Beach, near Woodland Beach, in Tiny, on it's actually a farm property, so we have about 50 acres. And as you can see, we're very, very close to a lot of our neighbors, so very easy for people to get there. This just very quickly just talks about lots of lessons learned. Trying to do an event on a farm field has been a journey, but we're getting there, and we're in really good shape. We have our preliminary site plan ready to go. And I just wanted to highlight a few things here. We've been really focusing on event promotion. We have Collaborative House from Midland doing the website and building that out. We've also hired them to do a professional social media campaign, because as we know, that's how you get the numbers out there. So they've been active on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And of course, we have the support through EDCNS and DMO. We're doing multiple save the date cards. They'll be going out through all the area schools. I've talked to them about doing a radio promotion, posters, and really trying to do a really good job promoting this event. And just quickly, we were very aggressive with grant applications. Not successful with some, but we're pleased to have the Ontario 150 grant. We're successful with that. And I have my fingers crossed for the Canada Summer Jobs Program, which I hope we're here this week. And excellent financial support from all the North Simcoe municipalities, EDCNS, and in-kind support. And again, I can't thank the town of Penetanguishene enough through your support through for everything, for last year, for the housing the summer student, and just your financial support through EDCNS and on your own. It's very much appreciated. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Does anybody have any questions about Farm Fresh Food Fest? So I'm just having fun saying that now. Councillor LaRue.
10 times fast.
Thank you. Cindy, is the plowing match actually being held at 42
Yes.
Crosslands, the plowing match itself?
It is, actually. We have space in the southwest field. Yeah.
Councillor Marriott, did you have your hand up? Mike? Nope. Any other questions for Cindy? No, well, thank you very much.
Okay,
Best of luck.
thank you.
Every time I see it, it's progressing.
We're getting there. Yeah,
good for
yeah.
you. And I'm sure the stress gets higher and higher and higher, but
No, I'm
you're not
fine.
showing it. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, everybody, for presenting. Moving on to agenda item number 6. It's moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, That the following minutes of the council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Special Council, April 12, 2017. Council, April 12, 2017. Committee of the Whole, April 12, 2017. Any errors, omissions, or comments on those? Councillor Rossin, please.
Thanks, Your Worship. Last council, we had a report come forward that was ratified to have the report regarding the food truck bylaw by Mr. Cadeau sent back to staff for a 5-year agreement. That leaves Mr. Cadeau in a position where he can't operate within the park right now. I'd like to see if we can propose a motion tonight on that to enable him to have temporary access to the park until staff returns back with a 5-year agreement. And I have something crafted if I can present that.
Sure. So is Stacy's that 2/3 to like reconsidering direction here? How should we best handle this thing? I'm quite comfortable having the conversation. Just how do we best get there?
Thank you, Your Worship. Definitely new territory. We do this type of thing where we pull a motion and reconsider it on the fly when it's a committee of the whole item, but we haven't really done this in terms of council, so I believe that it would be sort of a 2/3 type of situation.
Or I could just ask council to suspend the rules and we could put it on the table. So maybe that's the best way to just look for a motion. So I need 2/3 to suspend the rules so we can have a chat. I understand the time sensitivity of this for Mr. Cadeau. So. Okay, so mover to suspend the rules. Councillor Roston, seconder to suspend the rules. Councillor LaRue, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, that was 2/3, so we're there. So Councillor Roston, you have a motion to bring forward?
I do. So we use the same motion as last time, just a small tweak, so that the request for a bylaw exemption relating to the refreshment vehicle bylaw 2004-101 as amended for Mr. M. Cadeau be approved until June 30th of 2017, and that a future agreement for a 5-year agreement be brought forward for consideration.
Thank you. Comments or questions to clarify that? I think it's just giving Stacy enough time to get the agreement in place and allow enough time to Mr. Cadeau can actually start his business, hire his summer staff or whatever he needs to do. So I think it's a reasonable solution to the current situation. Any other comments, questions? Deputy Mayor, please.
I guess the comment that I would make is that it seems like we're tying up things in the park for a 5-year period, that we're not really giving another vendor an opportunity in a year or now. That's correct? That will solidify Mr. Cadeau being in the park for the next 5 years, that we won't go out for tender or anything like that, correct?
So the situation would see Mr. Cadeau, I'm looking at Stacey just in case I got this wrong, the situation would see Mr. Cadeau there for his 5 years when he signs his contract, but that doesn't prevent us from having other 5-year contracts with other food vendors and other merchants who have interest in our park. So Stacey, I see, is nodding her head that I've got that right. Sometimes my memory works.
Clarification.
All right.
Good.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on that motion. Oh, sorry. Oh, did I not have a seconder for that? Councillor LaRue second that. Thanks, Doug. Okay, any other final comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion is carried. Back to the original motion in hand, which was the minutes being confirmed from April 12 Special Council, Council of April 12, and Committee of the Whole of April 12, and all three of those occurred in 2017. All in favor of those? Those are carried and approved. Moving on to item 9A, and we have two in front of us. First one is moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor LaRue, that a zoning bylaw amendment to remove the holding H symbol for properties municipally known as 18 to 24 Burns Crescent inclusive be approved. Councillor Lauder, please. Or I can go to the planner if you wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. That was actually my plan exactly. So I will refer to our planner, Andrea Betty, and she'll come and talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and members of council. This is a public meeting to consider the removal of an H symbol from the properties at 18 to 24 Burns Crescent. It is a zoning matter, however, it's something a little bit different. It's a technical matter to remove an H symbol, which is basically placed on a property in order to confirm that some agreements or technical details have been met to the satisfaction of the municipality. Those properties were subject to the holding H symbol back in 2013 during a rezoning process. There are two technical requirements that they need to satisfy: was the removal, the payment of some front-ending services to the developer of the Church Street Meadows subdivision, which has been completed, as well as the removal of the or dedication of a 1-foot reserve in front of those houses to be part of the public road allowance, and that was done in February as well. So in terms of the municipality, they have satisfied the technical requirements in order to remove the H, but we do need to go through the process and hold a public meeting, which is happening right now, and then pass a bylaw itself. There is the difference being with a removal in H, because there's no change of land use, there is actually no appeal period for somebody to appeal the removal of an H. So unless there was attendance tonight with some comments about that, once council passes the bylaw, then technically the H has been lifted.
Okay, thank you for that, Angie. I didn't see the public meeting agenda in front of us, but the normal process is this is a chance for council to ask clarification questions and for any member of the public to speak for or against this application. Any member of the public wish to speak on this topic? Any member of council looking for clarification from Andrea in this particular matter? Okay, seeing none, then Andrea, I guess we'll move right to the motion itself then. Okay, Councillor Lauder, I'll just read the motion one more time. Moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor LaRue, that a zoning bylaw amendment to remove the holding H symbol for the properties municipally known as 18 to 24 Burns Crescent, inclusive, be approved. Final comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Andrea. And I guess before I go on to number 9B, I actually jumped ahead on consent agenda. My apologies. We did have one item under consent agenda, correspondence from the Georgian Bay Cancer Support Center. Emily Connell, Manager of Development and Communication. Did anybody wish to pull this to speak to it? Councillor LaRue, comments, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do I speak on?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The request has been put forward, and I'm sure that we at Section are full-heartedly in support of this. We know and realize the good work that this Cancer Support Center does in our municipality, and I think 1 hour of ice time or floor time is not a great request, and I'm sure that we would ask the support of council in this.
Okay, so you're looking to put a motion forward that we
I would put a motion forward that we give the hour for their table.
Yeah, seconder for that motion. A whole bunch of them, so I'm suspecting this is probably going to pass. So, seconded by Councillor Saunders. Final comments or questions on the motion in front of us? All in favor? And that is carried. Thanks for reminding me that I jumped over that, Council. Moving back to 9B. It's moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor LaRue, that the marketing plan as recommended by the Downtown Improvement Committee be approved, and that funds for Phase 1 be allocated from the Community Development Reserve in a maximum upset limit of $2,521, and further that funds for Phase 2 be included in the 2018 budget for the Community and Development Department operating budget in the maximum amount of $2,500, and finally that staff be directed to apply to RTO 7 2017-2018 partnership program for video funding in the amount of $2,500. Councillor Lauder, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know the Downtown Improvement Committee is very excited about this project. We've talked about it on several occasions, but as proper procedure, we do pass things on to our staff representative, Andrea Betty, and who is looking after our group and has put forth a very, very explanatory report, and I'd like to pass it on to her for comments. Also, I am available for any questions that may come up.
Thank you. Andrea, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council. This is a recommendation coming from the Downtown Improvement Committee. It is a two-phase, multi-year, small-scale marketing plan for the town itself. The first phase is to partner with CTV, Very, as well as Crown Rust Control to create a commercial for the town itself under their Great Places to See program. And if you'll indulge me for a second, I'm going to show you some that I've done in the past. The reason this is coming, I should say this, coming straight to council is that CTV has actually held a place for us, for the town itself, if we wish to actually have a commercial for this summer. And so that's why it's been brought forward here. They're holding a place for us. They've actually got 8 slots and those are filled, but they're willing to do a 9th for us. And just also to note, so this was brought to the Downtown Improvement Committee, and it was discussed whether it be a town-led initiative. And should council not want to lead that initiative, there is some interest from the private business community who may want to run with this as well. So it's not something that's definitely yes or no from council. There may be some private businesses. So I'll just do these videos or these commercials really quick. I think they're about 35 seconds long.
Or the crunch of fresh snow under our feet as we head outside
Keep thinking the movie 24 is coming on.
This winter, discover that the beach is just the beginning. There are tons of fun family activities in Wasaga Beach. Enjoy snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and snowmobiling in one of the most diverse ecosystems in the region. And don't forget to check out Snowman Mania on Family Day weekend, February 17th to the 20th. This year, make Wasaga Beach your winter destination in Simcoe County.
Great places to see. Brought to you by Crown Rust Control.
So those were two examples of the campaign locally that they do. They run a winter campaign as well as a summer campaign, so those were two winter examples themselves. And so the concept would be that the town would be part of a commercial for the town of Penetanguishene. We'd have full editing control at the end. However, the production and everything would be handled through CTV Barrie. So the overall value or cost of that commercial is in a presentation that's attached to the report, is around $15,000. And because of the Crown Rust Controls partnership, the little logo goes on at the end of the commercial. CTV would be able to provide that to the town of Penetanguishene for $5,521 as the maximum level. So through that, the first recommendation is partner to be that we use part of the operating budget in the community development department, but it's not fulsome enough to cover the entire anticipated cost. So the second part of that would be that additional $2,521 funds be allocated from the community development reserve. The second part of the small-scale marketing plan, this was under discussion prior to this commercial coming to our attention, and it was creation of a video for the town of Penetanguishene. Again, something small-scaled, something a little bit more upbeat, and something that would be shared on social media as opposed to a commercial advertising. So we've started investigating that potential opportunity, and we contacted Georgian College to see if some of their students would be able to help us prepare that quality video, do the production as part of their coursework, and then launch it for us. So we've had some very encouraging conversations with the Dean of the Visual Arts program, Paul Coitus, and he's very interested in doing it. We've put together some briefs in order to help the students understand what we were looking for. However, given the time of year, that would have to be something that was shifted to the fall, just so we can get the students back in it and get them working on it. So that is phase 2, I should say almost phase 2A. So if we could get that started this fall or into the winter, that would be something that the Georgian College students could do for us. Should that not work out, we've asked as part of this that we put in the 2018 budget money from the Community Development Reserve, or it goes into the operating budget of $2,500, and that then we'd also apply to the RTO7 partnership program for video funding. I don't know if you noticed on the Wasaga Beach video that they actually did get funding through that organization to assist in the cost of producing that video. So that would be something that would be a 2018 project, but I could apply for it this year, and so it is a 50-50 grant application, so I would need to be able to confirm that we have the matching funds to do such. And we've had it preliminary estimated around $5,000. So that's the small-scale 2-phased marketing plan that's being recommended by the Downtown Improvement Committee.
Thank you for that explanation. Council got questions for either Councillor Lauder, who sits in that, chairs that committee, or Andrea. See none? No. Thank you, Andrea. So then, any other final questions on this? See none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 10, presentations, consideration, and reports of Committee of the Whole. First one in front of us is Councillor LaRue, moved by Councillor LaRue, second by Councillor Mayotte, that recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Recreation and Community Services section be approved. Anyone wish to pull any of these items for discussion? Councillor Rawson, please.
I would like to pull the agenda item I, which was regarding the Georgian Queen.
Okay. Any other items to be pulled? Then I'll call for the vote on the balance. All in favor? That is carried. And Councillor Rawson on item number I, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know there's been lots of work and back and forth on this item, and I believe in conversation with Councillor Levy that she was going to make a recommendation on a slight adjustment. I think there's been some discussions with Steve and Sherry regarding the term of the contract, and that the proposed agreement right now is a 1 year. Steve, if he wants to be looking at weddings and events going on out there, people are planning a long duration, up to a year. If we make a 1 year agreement, he can't be working on any spring events for anybody for next year. So that's what the intention on this is. I know 5 year, we've talked about that with a couple other things happened in the last little while, food vendor and our Happy Paddling. That might be difficult for everyone, but I would like to propose tonight that we look at a 2 year opportunity. That would give the town an opportunity to evaluate what this looks like. It also gives Steve the opportunity to have some business continuity and be able to do what he needs to do this year and next year. And then staff can do it and come back at the end of next year and look at an extension at that time. So I'd like to keep the motion as is, just with the second part of that it becomes a 2 year agreement.
The second year for that 2 year portion? Councillor LaRue, or Councillor Rose, sorry. So comments or questions? I had both moving here. The L's going ahead. Doug moved and Lauder moved and LaRue. Just pick one. Questions, comments on the 2 years? I've still got a couple because I'm still a little uncomfortable. When we pass this, we're going to breach a contract with P7. So if they showed up to our dock with the receipt in hand, with the receipt that says I paid my money for P7, what are we going to do? We're going to kick them off the dock like they did in United Airlines? What's our plan?
Thank you.
We free-sold the
Your
seat,
Worship.
right?
So the plan is the wharf master has been on board for a couple weeks now, and he's well aware of the situation. Angel, our support admin person, has reached out to our slip renters on the cement pier, and we do have 3 people who are willing to move to other places in the wharf, particularly in the transient dockage. So our plan is to approach the slip renter in P7 and offer another space on the cement pier.
So that's the same scenario as United Airlines. So they declined the offer, wanted to keep the seat. What happens? So we're directing you to breach a contract here. That's my issue, right?
I believe we address that issue when the situation arises, if the situation arises.
It's a wee bit of a slippery slope to direct staff to break a contract, right? That's not a good policy setting, reputation setting maneuver here. Guess my other question then, in terms of the boat safety, so I understand the DFO is not accountable for the security safety of the boat. Our building inspectors can't inspect the boat. So what happens there? So how do our citizens rest assured that this facility on our dock is passing inspections, meets the codes? Our fire department's not involved, so what happens there?
Thank you, Your Worship, for the question. It's a good question. It's certainly one that we've had lots of discussion with senior team as well as Mr. Robillard. It is a gray area, as in that it doesn't apply to the building code, the fire code, but it also doesn't apply to Transport Canada because it doesn't fall under either jurisdiction. I have received recommendations and correspondence from 3 different representatives of Trans Canada. 2 of them have recommended that we seek to have Mr. Robillard complete a marine surveyor's report, which he has done, and another recommended that we follow the guidelines for an attraction vessel. This is a checklist, essentially, that he, as the master of the ship, would inspect the ship and sign off saying that he meets the guidelines, and he has completed that as well.
So the marine surveyor, so that's unregulated, right? So that's like the home building inspector, which is unregulated, so you go take a course and you come in and inspect a facility and sign it off?
Correct. It is an unregulated field. There are a variety of marine surveyors available, and there's not a licensing process to do that.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Lauder?
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering if what insurance policy are we demanding for the George and Queen, and can that be heightened in order to protect the town to some degree?
Go to Kerry on that. So insurance, can we add the what's the insurance in the agreement, and is there opportunity to increase? I know for the town we have X insurance, and then we could actually increase it to some kind of unanticipated insurance level. No, I understand. I'm just wondering what Kerry has to say.
The The draft agreement currently states that the town is requiring a certificate of insurance naming the town of Penetang for a $5 million liability.
Any comments or questions? I'll be speaking against. I won't vote in favor of this, obviously. I think we're breaching a contract, and on that alone, I don't think that's proper decorum for a we just break our reputation. Got a contract, we're breaking our word. That's just not, I just can't settle my head around that one, but I will vote in opposition to this motion. Any other final comments before we do call for that vote? Councillor Leroux?
Just a comment, Your Worship, in regards to the P7 location. It's not going to matter a great deal whether we give him 1 year or 2 years. We're still going to ask that he be relocated. So I don't think the 1 year or 2 year is going to matter a great deal in that respect.
No, I agree. We breached the contract in either motion. But my issue is breaching contract, breaking our word. But that's neither here nor there. Alrighty, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? Opposed? And all in favor? Make sure I got the hands up here. Okay, opposed. Okay, and that motion is carried. Moving on to agenda item 10A. Where are we here? Sorry, that was recreation I just did. Here we go. So moving on to Councillor Planning and Development. Moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Leroux, that the recommendation contained within Committee of the Whole report related to Planning and Development Services section be approved. Does any member of council wish to pull any of these items? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Those items are carried. Oh, I see what's going on. Moving on to T&Es, moved by Councillor Ross and seconded by Councillor Leroux, that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Transportation and Environmental Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items? Councillor Lauder, you wish to pull one?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to pull B3 regarding the C.C. Tatham and the WMI and Associates.
Okay. B3 will be pulled. Any other items to be pulled? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on the ballots. All in favor? They are carried. And item B3, over to you, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a clarification, I think what's actually in the minutes may have been incorrect. It may be my presumption, but it was moved by and seconded by that the proposal submitted by C.C. Tatham and Associates be approved. My understanding is that we're accepting the WMI and Associates proposal. And as such, the first paragraph there should be that the proposal submitted by WMI and Associates be approved, to be complete, and then finally that the contract administration and inspection services by WMI and Associates, and that the taxation. So I just want to change that first paragraph, which says C.C. Tatham and Associates to WMI and Associates.
So I'll pass that to clerk. And just for clarity, Council, when you catch these ones, that actually comes up when we approved the agendas way back when, like 25 minutes ago. So when you're looking for the approval agenda, that's the time to bring these up. I will allow it because it was obviously an oversight. But if you catch those when we're approving minutes, that's when we yank these ones out. But Stacey, comments on those ones so we can kind of correct that minutes, please?
Absolutely, Councillor Lauder, you're absolutely right. The motion was changed in the portion, but it was missed in the other portion. I think that it was very clear that Council wanted to select WMI and Associates, and it was just a matter of a typographical error.
Thanks. So we'll correct those minutes for the official record. Good. Thank you for catching that, Councillor Lauder. And so I'll need Councillor Lauder just to move that recommendation for information to be received, or to be approved, rather, sorry.
Yes, I will move.
A seconder for that, Councillor Rawson. All in favor? And that is approved. And we'll move on to Finance and Corporate Services, and it's moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by the Councillor Saunders, that the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. Anyone wish to pull any of these items for comment? See none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? Those are carried. On to item 11, motions which notice has been previously given. There is none. Notices of motion. Does any member of council have a notice of motion to bring forward in tonight's session? Seeing none, we'll move on to consideration of bylaws. And we have a boatload of those. And it's moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the Council of the Town of Penetang introduce the following bylaws: 217-22, 217-23, 217-24, 217.25, 217.26, 217.27, and 217.28, and that the bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second and third time, and carried. Does any member of council wish to pull any of these bylaws for discussion? No, 22 to 28, Councillor Water. 29 is not part of it. 29 is by itself. It's the confirmation bylaw. Yep, thank you. Are we missing that, Stacy?
You're absolutely right. It is noted, and there may be a duplication in the agenda that Councillor Lauder's looking at. It is a separate entity coming later, but it looks like it has been duplicated in the bylaw section.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lauder. You got the eagle eye tonight going. That's great. All in favor? And those are carried. And to Councillor Lauder's point, Stacey, I don't have a motion for that one in front of me for 29, so I guess I just read it this way, that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduced bylaw 2017-29, and that the bylaw be read a first time, deemed to be read a second time, a third time, and carried. Is that what you're looking for? Okay, mover and seconder for that then. Councillor Leroux, Councillor Mayotte, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for that, Councillor Lauder, for catching those. Moving on to item number 14, which is question period from the media and public. Ian? Elizabeth? Come on, one of these days you got to cough one up. Announcements and inquiries. I would like to make an announcement. This week is National Volunteer Week, and certainly like to take a moment tonight to thank all our volunteers. I can tell you, as the Town of Penetanguishene, we can get nearly half the things done that we do get done without our volunteers and their great work. So to one and all, thank you for being you, and thank you for all you do for our town, which really is appreciated. Any other announcements or inquiries to Deputy Mayor, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to remind the residents of our fine community about Treasure Days that are going to happen on the 13th of May. So get your treasures out to the road on that particular day, and hopefully it will be, I think it's growing in momentum, so I know we have a council meeting again just before that, but I thought I would mention it tonight, just get everybody in motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Okay, 16A, we've already done the confirmation bylaw. So, Stacy, we are adjourned at 8:02 p.m. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back for Committee of the Whole. Thank you. Alrighty, council, I'll call us back to order for our Committee of the Whole meeting, commencing at 8:07. First item in front of us is the approval of the agenda. And can I have a mover and seconder to approve tonight's agenda? Councillor Ross and Councillor Saunders. Any comments or questions on tonight's agendas? Any additions? See none, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That agenda is approved. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in tonight's session? Seeing none at this time. If you find yourself in that position, let us know and we'll address it appropriately. Moving on to item number 4, and with bated breath, we're waiting for our Chief Water Operator report. Mo Lefebvre. Mo, welcome. Good to see you here.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? I prepared this report, or this presentation. I think I did this back in 2013 was the last time I came to you to talk about the differences in the governance of our operations in the water side of things. And I think it's good every now and again to come and talk to council and just give you an up-to-date review of what's going on, even though we have the report that we do, and that's all legislated. It's a requirement that we provide at least the summary report to members of council. You're not required by law to sign it. There's nothing saying you have to sign it. However, when we get a detailed inspection by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Control, climate change, they possibly will ask me for documentation saying that, okay, we provided it to council. Otherwise, there's nothing out there saying that, I can say we provided it, but they sometimes like to see proof. So I was asked for that once, but I'd like to keep that going and just be on the safe side so that if I ever get asked for it again, then at least we have some sort of documentation and some paper trail. And it's for you to review if you wish. And some members of council have said that they have, and they'd like me to ask them questions later and see what they know. So I'm prepared to do that. But I'm going to get going because I was asked to make this brief. So there's two sets of reports, or two reports that we have to do annually as part of Ontario Regulation 170 and the Safe Drinking Water Act. One is the annual report. It's a summary basically of the chemicals that we've used, description of the water system, any reports and adverse notifications, corrective actions, results of tests, major expenses incurred in locations. So an example would be the Pyatt standpipes, the new Pyatt standpipes. So that would be included and that would be part of it. Any major expenses, and they don't define what a major expense is, but that would include things like a new pump in the pump stations, for instance. So that's listed on the annual report, and it's only a couple pages long. We go on to summary reports. That's a little different, and there's no template that you can use to design your own summary reports. Everybody does their own. We like to include a little bit more for ourselves because it acts as a Bible or a reference for us, a quick reference. So rather than go look for something online, we can find it in a binder very readily because we have binders going back to 1994, which so happens to when I started here. For the town of Penetanguishene. So we've got a whole bunch of binders lined up every year. Anything I need to know quickly or review, if you want to look at historical trending, it's all in these binders, which makes up the summary report. And we have to provide them to council no later than March 31st every year. So that's why I typically like to have it signed by March 31st every year. Even though I have provided it before then, and perhaps we don't get it signed by March 31st, at least there is receipt that you did receive it. Water Division reporting. This is produced every year in-house. Includes much more than the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act. As I said, it was, it acts as a Bible or a quick reference section for us. It includes non-compliance items, executive summary, system description, annual production summary and comparisons, permits to take water, and municipal drinking water license numbers and expiration dates, sampling procedures and summary of samples taken, MOE compliance inspection reports, all microbiological and chemical sampling certificates of analysis, important daily data collected throughout the year. That would be flow rates, amount of water pulled out of the ground for supply to the residents of the town of Penetanguishene, any chlorine residuals. Typically, they're monitored online continuously, so we have that, and then every day we produce a daily SCADA report, and that's a requirement under the Safe Drinking Water Act that we review the data within a 72-hour period, and I review it as the chief water operator every day, except on during the weekends we're allowed up to 72 hours, so it gives me, I've got that window to come in and view it every Monday. That is not included as part of that because you have 365 additional pages, which I'm sure you don't all want to read. And then we have meter calibration records. That's a requirement because they want to know whether our water meters are being calibrated on a regular basis, and if want to know if they're actually reading what they should be reading. Over the course of the last 16 years, the governance of public water systems in the province of Ontario has changed steadily to arrive at the current state of annual inspections, annual audits, and communication requirements. This presentation hopes to highlight the means and methods by which the Water Division ensures that all requirements are met on a daily, monthly, yearly basis, starting with the Ministry of Environment, interactions, DWQMS audits, and communication requirements. Every year, as a means of ensuring compliance to the applicable regulations that affect public drinking water, an inspector from the MOE, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, will perform on-site inspections. And as I said previously, about those inspections that we get from the Ministry of Environment are compliance inspections. They're separate from the inspections or the audits that we receive through DWQMS. And they'll look at our quality management system, as opposed to Ministry of Environment will look at the operations side of things and whether we are abiding by all the laws and requirements for testing water and managing the water systems. And they do give you a detailed and focused. And I guess it's a little confusing because you would think focus may be a little bit more detailed. I don't know. When they came out with the terminology, it's like, okay, which one's worse? But every 3 years they come out with a detailed inspection, so that's where they would ask for this kind of documentation, so they'd like to see something that's signed off by council that you've received these reports. We've done very well in the last, the past several years, probably four or 5 years. I didn't go back and investigate that and see how correct I am on that, but I know at least for the past several years we've maintained 100% scores as a team in the Water Division. And that just means they haven't found anything. They haven't found anything that is in non-compliance with the regulations. They will sometimes come up with a best practice recommendation that will not reduce your score. But we haven't had any for a number of years because we've gone through this a number of years now since Walkerton happened. And I mean, we fixed everything that needed to be brought up to standards, at least by now. At least we should have. And we've got a really good rapport with the MOECC, just based on the fact that we test super regulatorily. And that's because of the situation we're in here in the town of Penetanguishene with single source, one well, as your worship calls it. We do have multiple wells, but it is one source. And we really want to make sure that we're well ahead of the curve here and if something was to come up. So we do test super regulatorily. It's a little more expensive, but it means that we are not being shocked all of a sudden with, you know, a major dilemma with our water supply. And the Ministry of Environment recognizes that, and they recognize that we do a lot of the extra things that aren't required, but it just gives us peace of mind. NSF audits and the DWQMS, that's a different part of the governance that I alluded to before. That's is a conformance. So it's basically they'll look at our records. Their big thing is documents, records control, scheduled meetings, communication with council, with the public. There's a number of different elements as part. There's 21 different elements to that DWQMS standard, and we've done very well with that. And since we've been accredited for, I think, since 2009. So we've been doing very well with those reports, and they always find something. They always have to find something. We always find something in our internal audits, because we have 2 internal auditors that, within the water division that will do audits, you know, in-house every year. We're required to do them in-house every year for ourselves, and we're required to have an external audit done every year as well. But we've done very well with those in the past, and we'll continue to do well. There's always going to be some little hiccup, but it's part of the QMS program. Is, you know, you have to. You're not always going to be perfect every time, and even if you are perfect last time, things may have changed that you may not have noticed or picked up on if there's been a regulation change or some sort of a change in the standard. Because, you know, there's a prime example. Things could happen there that we're not right on top of the game there that we might miss. So we'll always have compliance issues or not compliance but non-conformances, and we fix them. You know, if we come up with them, we fix them, and that's it. And that's all this program's all about with the DWQMS. If you come out every year and you have no non-conformances as part of your internal audits, they're going to start really giving you a hard time. They'll start looking at you because everybody always has flaws in some area. We don't. We're not saying we're perfect, but we're as close as you can get. To date, we have addressed and closed numerous non-conformances indicating the system's strengthening and growth. Again, that's part of the QMS process. We have satisfied all the requirements to achieve full accreditation of the Drinking Water Quality Management Standard, which is part of our license. We maintain a municipal drinking water license, and this is a big part of it, as well as our financial plan. There's a few other items that we have to comply with as well. So in order to satisfy the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act, we've implemented a communications policy that clarifies how we convey, how information is conveyed to the owners, which is council. They're communicated through our CAO, and he acts as the owner representative. And the Director of Public Works is supposed to be providing that information or discussing it with the CAO. And that works well for us. So one of the problems we did have in the past is, and I see that I want to discuss a little bit about iCompass CW notification, and I think we fixed that because we used to, that is as listed as part of our communications policy and procedure is that we would receive those notifications, and that's been working really well. We found a problem with that. There was a non-conformance with that particular section with the communications policy, and it was fixed just by one of our own internal audits. So there's an example of how this system is working for us. We weren't receiving all of them, so when you're looking at certain policies and procedures that have changed, and then we weren't getting the notification from council through this program, but it's been rectified. So it's great to have this to have the QMS. And that's the end. And I don't even have an up-to-date picture of the town of Penetanguishene water tank. Look at that's from 2010.
On next year's presentation, we'll look forward to an updated photo. How's that, Mo?
That's about all of the updated on.
Thanks for the presentation report, and I certainly, our citizens rest easy because you and your folks are looking after our water. There's certainly no question about the high standards you bring to the table. So I think there's a lot of people looking to talk, so I'll just go in order. Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Saunders, then Councillor Rossin.
Great report, and we have all the confidence in the gentlemen that are working at that department.
Yeah, they are an awesome team, I'll tell you. They are, it's not just me, I'll tell you, it's them.
Well, and you keep up to everything, so that's a good thing, Mo. Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Yes, primarily for our viewers at home, I just wanted to repeat the fact that the Ministry of the Environment has given us a 100% rating for the last several years. So I think it's important for the people of Penetang to understand that their water is well looked after.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Rossin.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Mo. And you don't need to follow up with a comment question tonight, but one thing I'd love to add to a referral item for future is you talked a little about sustainability, and I know you made a comment about Mayor Marshall talking about one wellhead. And we've had some reports come forward from Brian in the past about Robert Street West wells. We've talked about we're in a wait-and-see kind of holding pattern. There has been conversations about fuller tie-ins with Midland and Lake. So don't comment tonight unless you really want to, but I'd really love to have a future conversation about the sustainability of what if something were to happen. I know you go above and beyond, and we applaud that, but what if? And what is the plan? I don't honestly know what is that plan, so if we could have some dialogue, what's that look like, and do we need to do any planning today to do whatever we need to do with dollars and asset management planning to make that happen in whatever year so we're ready? So I'd love to really know more and be better educated, and then put dollars where it needs to happen to help support you do what we need to do, be sustained.
Yeah, well, we are, as we've been doing testing down at Robert Street West. We have to do more testing this year. There is a plan. It's there, and we have had brought up to almost the construction stage for a treatment facility down at the Robert Street West wells, but a lot of things have changed since then. Even the process that we were looking at has changed. It's not required to have a packed aeration system down there. We can get away with a cheaper solution. However, there's other things that report and the engineered drawings didn't cover. There's issues like the age of the reservoir at Robert Street West, and the fact that tank is not baffled down there. We use that for fire protection. It's an unbaffled tank, so it means you can't get your contact time, your CT value out of it. You won't be able to get that disinfection time that's required through that system. If we built something down there, we'd still have to add a chlorine system into place, and there's that to consider as well. We do have, if we needed a fail-safe and we needed water for drinking purposes only and no firefighting purposes, I'm sure we'd have to arrange something with Midland in a very short period of time. That would give us some time to entertain a surface water treatment facility, which I really would not be a good fit for the town of Penetang Machine. It's very, very costly to build a surface treatment plant. So there are other options out there. But looking at our water supply and the quality, we do a fair bit of testing. Like we'll be years ahead of the game before something can, it happens here that would be bad enough to shut off our water supply to the town of Penetang Machine. That's why I like being proactive, and we do a lot more sampling than what we have to, what we're required to do. Just so that if we see something, and we'll start trending it, and we'll see, okay, now's the time we better start doing something. So we see trichloroethylene, which is TC, that is the same problem that we have down at Robert Street West. If we see that happening in the Payette well supply system, that would be the time to take serious action and start looking. We'll still have years away to get something done, but I don't anticipate that's going to happen because I'm sure we would have seen it by now. And we also, with the meter installation program in 2005, 2006, we reduced the well production from Payette substantially. We're still, up to last year, we were pumping less water than we had since 1994. It consistently dropped down for the 3-4 years right after we put the water meters in, and it hasn't rebounded. So we're lucky in that respect that we're not pulling more. If there's anything else on the outskirts, so to speak, that is being pulled in by the wells at that particular location, we're not seeing it. And there's a lot less chance that we'll see it because we're not mining the aquifer, which means prior to the water meters going in, we were getting to be in desperation mode, and we're seriously looking at Robert Street West because we were running out of water. But we have an abundance of water here now. It's just that fact that, you know, if something else comes creeping into the situation, we're going to be in trouble, but we still have time on our hands. It's not going to happen overnight. That's, there's no fear of that, but.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mo? Okay, great report, Mo. Hats off to you and your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 5, items of reference, of which we have none. So we'll move on to Recreation and Community Services. And I'll turn the chair over to Councillor LaRue, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moving on to consent agenda and the recommended action that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Trails Committee minutes dated February 15, 2017. The Penetanguishene Seniors Council minutes dated March 7th. Correspondence from Minister responsible for Seniors Affairs, and that was the Seniors of the Month letter and also the proclamation of Seniors Month. I'd just like to touch on both of these, Your Worship. The seniors that they're asking to have a senior person named to the province, and as council is well aware, we had Anne Murphy as a town's senior. At our meeting of the seniors in early April, it was decided that we would like to nominate Anne for also the provincial award. And I understand and I believe that Angel is looking after that. And then going on to the proclamation Seniors Month 2017, in regards to that, Your Worship, I would like to make a motion that Council and the Mayor and Council approve the month of June as Seniors Month in the town of Penetanguishene. So I require a seconder for that motion.
Yep. Seconder. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor, and all in favor. Thank you. Whoop, gone too far. Matters for consideration. 1, verbal update recurling club agreement. So we'd ask our Director of Recreation to give us a verbal.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could help out, just looking for a mover and seconder to receive the consent agenda.
Consent, okay,
Yep,
yes.
So sometimes hard with the laptop. Councillor Saunders, yeah.
And Councillor Rawson, all in favor.
There you go.
Okay. So, okay. Now we'll have a verbal update from our Director of Penetang Curling Club.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We just wanted to give Council an update, as this is a referral item, and we had communicated that we had anticipated to get a report and agreement before Council by the end of March. I'd like to let everybody know that our ad hoc committee has met, and we did make some headway with discussions in the agreement. However, we've run into a small bump with respect to ownership of the building. So there's no doubt in anyone's mind that we own land. We've met with legal counsel on both sides, and we've had some friendly conversation, and we have another meeting coming up to carry on with that discussion. And once we overcome that hurdle, I will be bringing a report to council.
Any questions or concerns? There being none, we will move on to Item 2, which is the Trails Strategy, and the recommended action that the Trails Strategy developed by the Trails Advisory Committee as outlined in Attachment 1 be approved as the Trails Strategy for the town of Penetanguishene. And here again, I will ask our director to give us an overview.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to take the opportunity, one, to recognize the good work of the Trails Committee. We have a very engaged, skilled, and knowledgeable group that have been working to put together a strategy that's been presented here before you today. So they've done an exercise where they've looked at what they believe to be the top 10 gaps in the town of Penetanguishene with respect to trail development or enhancements. And we've highlighted them here on the map in the order of priority. And I'm just going to speak to the top 3 because these are the ones that we believe need to be addressed first. So the number 1 you can see, the top 3 projects are all in the west end of town. And the first one would be to connect the Rotary, the waterfront trail to the Copeland Creek extension. So there is a gap in that finished trail project, and we're looking at completing that this summer. The second project or area of priority that the Trails Committee has identified is the overhead bridge trail head, and where we connect to Tiny. An interesting piece of information with respect to this portion of trail, the Simcoe County Trail Loop last year put out trail counters around the Simcoe County Trail Loop, and the most amount of hits, the most well-traveled piece of trail in all of Simcoe County was this spot right here, where the two municipalities connect. So it further supports the need to potentially partner with Tiny and look at developing a trailhead and whatnot in this location. The third priority would be Park Street, and that's to connect the waterfront and overhead bridge trail to the Simcoe County Forest, and that's something that is also supported by the Rec Master Plan and identified in there. So I won't go through all of the gaps that were identified. Just touch the surface on the top 3, and I would like to highlight to Council, this is a living document. It's not something that's meant to be set in stone. It's meant to be something that's massaged, adapted, revised as priorities change and things happen over time. And the other last piece is that the Trails Committee has put some good thought into how they see a project starting, carrying through to implementation, designing a project, sourcing funding, all those sorts of pieces, and that's all outlined in the strategy. So thank you for your time.
Do we have questions or concerns to the Director? There being none, I would ask for a mover in regards to the matters for consideration. Councillor Mayette, seconder. Councillor Saunders, all in favor. Moving on to additional park staffing requests. The recommended action that the addition of $9,437 to the 2017 Parks operating budget for the employment of 1 full-time seasonal recreation labor for approximately May 1 to September 1 as described under option A below be approved, and that the increase to the parks operating budget be funded within the overall operating budget from the $25,000 in savings achieved from our 2017 benefit program renewal, and finally that the funding for the addition of 720 recreation labor hours be added to the annual parks operating budget going forward. And again, I would ask our Director to give us an overview on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we all know, over the past several summer seasons, Council in the town of Penetanguishene has added a lot of wonderful infrastructure to particularly our waterfront park, our splash pad, amphitheater, developed many gardens and whatnot, and the staffing to support the maintenance and upkeep of this infrastructure has not been increased.
It was anticipated that the service delivery review would identify the need to catch that staffing up to support the infrastructure that's there to keep it safe and well maintained. However, unfortunately, that won't be happening in a timely way to get us some support for this coming season. And with adding programming and needing help with getting equipment set up and taken down, we do know that we need that help sooner than later. So I've outlined in my report the tasks that we see that need to be done, some that we know already are not being done. Experience from 2016 and previous summers, things that we know that citizens have brought to our attention, but unfortunately get put back on the back burner trying to address with priorities. So we're asking for the addition of one casual staff for 18-week period, which equals 720 hours, and that's at a rate of minimum wage. It would be a summer student.
Questions or concerns? Councillor Rawson?
So just for clarity for me, this is a casual 2017 program. It's not a permanent employee forever. It's just for this season, seasonal student. And so am I right to say this is $35,000 costing? $25,000 come from savings, and in addition to that, $9,437 to enhance that to make that happen for this year?
Carrie?
Through you to Councillor Rawson, I'll respond to the financial aspect of those questions. The cost of one summer student for the 720 hours at minimum wage is $9,437. The $25,000 that's referenced in the report are savings that we've achieved in other areas of our corporate operating budget related to our benefit renewal program that came in under budget that we would be utilizing to fund that $9,400 staffing position. And so we would only be using $9,400 of that $25,000 that we currently have. In terms of the position for 2017, the Director of Recreation has also included in the motion that moving forward that summer student position be maintained in future budget years. So increasing the summer student staffing profile by one position for 2017 and years moving forward.
Councillor Rawson?
Thanks for the clarity and follow-up. I appreciate that. I read it at first 35,000, so I had a little more to say if it was at 35, but at 9 I'm probably going to swallow. My only thing is we didn't really do a great dive into this at budget time. We did talk about adjournment service delivery time, and the only thing that I look back is the CEO came to us a couple times with great urgency about risk and health and safety and HR, and we pushed back, rightfully so, to look at other options. We talked about the service review, and he said risk, and we said okay. We said really look at other options, and I don't think we're really looking at other options. If you drive down Highway 93, just past Midland IGA, there's a sign of a community group that adopted Highway 93, and they cleaned that. And I think a lot of that can be partnership ideas for the park. There's need to have and want to have. I think flowers are kind of a nice thing. The health and safety thing that the CEO mentioned was a need to have, and I think he did a deep dive and he came back with a great alternative solution. So I'm not enthusiastic about it, but I'm better with 9.
Further questions or concerns? Your Worship.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to vote in support of this motion. I think investment in our park, I mean, is $3.5 million, and we need to step up and step in. But I don't disagree with the thought of some kind of community program where you own a mile of the park or a piece of the park or some kind of community involvement. I think that's a good thread to talk about. I think under current circumstances where at this time of year this is the right move, but I do think a broader conversation on how we maybe manage this differently, because it's a beautiful park, and one might argue that we could never pay for enough manpower to actually keep it at the pristine level where we all would want it. So maybe some volunteer effort and some relationships there need to be investigated and nuggets dug up. But I support the motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to agree with you on that as well, is that we often we look at our park and we keep adding to it, and we forget that, when we're looking at the amphitheater, the beautiful amphitheater there, that the work that's going to be involved to maintain and keep that thing beautiful and part of the park, we forget that it takes bodies to do it, so I certainly will be supporting it as well. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will also be supporting this extra 720 hours. I agree with comments that were just made. We have a beautiful park. We're inviting tourism. We're inviting the world, if we want to go that far, to come and see what we've done in the last couple of years. And I think we certainly need to do our best to keep it as pristine as possible. I think the whole idea of trying to get organizations such as Rotary or the Lions Club involved in some fashion, it's a great idea. But I think for now, we need to make sure that we maintain the park at a high level. So I will be supporting the initiative.
Thank you. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It seems to me that we're focused, probably rightly so, on Rotary Park, but we have other parks in this community. We've got McGuire Park, Memorial Park. Memorial Park in particular is very, very close to my heart, since it's where we have our cenotaph. And I'm not sure that one additional person is adequate to look after all of the parks in this community in an adequate way. And so I'm looking very, very hard at option C, which is to add 2 people to look after all of our parks. If we're going to continue to be proud of our parks, as I hope we will be, I think it's important they all be maintained in an appropriate fashion. And too often we spend good money on upgrading facilities, but we don't spend the appropriate amount of money to maintain those facilities. And so I don't know if I have support around the table for option C, but I'd be very supportive of option C, which is to add 2 people.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Perhaps I could ask our director what her thoughts on this, as far as bodies to see the work done that is required to maintain not just waterfront but all our parks.
So that's a great point that Councillor Saunders brings forward. We focus on our Rotary Park, and certainly the other parks do sort of play second fiddle to that great open space. Our facilities manager, as you know, is currently on a leave, and I've not been through a park season. And I've certainly recognized that in my report. So I count solely on his feedback before he left for his leave, and he assured me the park could. He actually asked for 3 bodies. So I think that he would be able to find ample work for 2. However, recognizing that there is a service delivery review I did recommend 1 in hopes that we could, get a third party to come in and take a look and truly let us know what it is that we need in our park to support our parks.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a little problem that we're just looking after one park, mainly similar to Councillor Saunders. We do have a lot of parks in the town. One thing we do need to mention, Brad, this isn't just one person, right? We do have a full complement of staff that does their other stuff. The only problem I have with the report is that it's asking for this to be an annual thing. Being an annual one, we're deciding on a problem that we have to solve this summer, but they're just sort of sliding that one in. I think we should wait for our review from our staffing review that is coming forth in all departments, just to make sure. I don't like the idea of one just jumping in and saying, well, we automatically needed it this year, so we automatically need it next year. When we've gone through the review before, we've always looked at the options of hiring it out, hiring a people, as was mentioned earlier, adoption of certain parts of the parks or the trails. So until we look at all that, I got a little problem with it. Having an extra person for this year for the 720, I have no problem with that part of it, just that I don't believe that it should automatically include into next year, knowing that we're doing an upcoming staffing review.
Thank you, Councillor LaRose. I would tend to agree with you, Dan, in that respect, that the one for the time being until the review is done, because I think that when we are looking or doing the review, we're probably going to find that somewhere along the line we're going to probably need another full-time employee year-round, because we also have an arena that we have to consider. And there are often times now at the arena when we only have one staff on hand. And so we have to start thinking about the health and safety end of that. So I would agree with you that I would go for option A for now, and then when the review comes, to see what it's going to bring. Further questions or concerns? There being none, I would ask a motion to move option A. Sure. Councillor Mayette, seconder. Deputy. Okay, yes, I agree that removing that portion that says annual, yeah.
I'll support the
Okay,
motion.
so Councillor Mayette and Deputy Mayor, and all in favor. That's carried. Referrals to upcoming agenda and staff. That the Recreation Community Service section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Future agenda items, tourism, advertising, print, and online for future consideration. Spring of 2017, recreation assets, parks, and facilities analysis, summer 2017. Cycling strategy, fall of 2017. Curling club operations review agreement, spring of 2017, an ongoing. Ondor skating rink, spring of 2017. Karma Ecology Garden report agreement, fall of 2017, and Georgian Queen agreement, spring 2017. And pickleball, fall of 2017. Questions, concerns? Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would argue we could probably remove the Georgian Queen now. And I would like to see if we could add Rotary Park Pavilion rentals. I had lots of complaints last year from people not able to access the pavilion, want to use the splash pad because it was being rented and they didn't have access to utilize the pavilion. So I'd like to have a discussion about that if we could look at that item.
So we would add the waterfront pavilion to the referrals. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know in conversation, what I'm about to talk about is the outdoor skating rink and the pickleball. And the only problem I have is the fact that there's two different times. We've agreed in council that we'd like to talk about both things, which is great. I know one councillor has talked about the two of them happening together, and other councillors have talked about the fact that the two of them may appear in the same location. So I think it's very reasonable that the report for both the rink and the pickleball come together, not necessarily, well, hopefully in the same council of the whole and council ratification, so that we're looking at the whole thing all at once. And realistically, my feeling is it's all going to be presented so that we can look at it for budget time. So I'm just thinking that the outdoor skating rink being brought forth in September, or sorry, in the spring, very shortly. I would like to see them both come forth in the early fall, late summer, so that council is able to look at the whole picture.
Thanks, Councillor Lauder, and I tend to agree with you, and I think that we would have to look at some of these things, as Councillor Saunders has pointed out before. We say spring, and you know what? Spring's done. And so I think maybe we should be changing some of these things to the summer of 2017, and maybe we could move the pickleball and the outdoor rink to summer of 2017 and go from there. Councillor Rawson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It's just a procedural item. Councillor Lauder made an amendment to the pickleball a couple weeks ago that was ratified tonight, so I believe it's a 1 year until that's renegotiated or debated at the table. So Maybe just let staff look at that before it comes back for spring.
No.
Sorry, maybe I can clarify. So, no, it was defeated for McGuire Park, so it's still open for anywhere else in the town of Penetanguishene. I take your point, but the motion was specific to McGuire Park, and I'll look to Stacy just to make sure I've got that correct.
Yes, the motion on the table was specifically regarding the construction of McGuire Park. It wasn't a motion regarding consideration of pickleball. I believe that this was added at the last meeting as well. And I thought that it was for budgetary considerations for 2017. Yep. As opposed to a specific location, and yes or no.
And that is correct. It was added that we would be looking into getting pickleball on the recreation agenda, along with the outdoor rink and other matters. It wasn't particularly where it was going to go.
Thank you. And I'd like to point out the fact that I totally accepted the fact that the pickleball was squashed and defeated for McGuire Park, and it was not actually brought up. This motion, referral for future agenda, was brought up by another councillor. Just the fact that we should talk about pickleball, and should it be valid within, should it be something that council should look at within our budgetary framework for next year. So, yeah, I'm happy with where we are right now and look forward to the future. Thanks.
And just to point out again, Councillor Lauder, that the fact is that it was quashed in McGuire Park in so regards as to where with the tennis courts, but not to say that it was quashed for McGuire Park. McGuire Park is a large park.
Yep. I totally agree. I misspoke. Yeah, thank you.
So if I could have a mover and a seconder on Councillor Lauder and your worship, all in favor. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Going on to, what are we going on to? We're going on to Transportation Environmental Services section, so over to Councillor Rawson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. 7B, Transportation Environmental. 7A is our consent agenda. It's recommended that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration be received for information. We have one item, the Midland Penetanguishene Transit Ridership Monthly Updated, dated March 2017. Some member wish, Councillor Lauder and Mayor Marshall. So we'll pull that item. Councillor Lauder, it's to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, I'm very pleased with the report. I think it's a great report. I'm really excited to see the ridership increase. So I only have two little concepts or two comments. And has there ever been a monthly ridership break-even threshold? So, you know, at what point are we starting to really see some sort of financial, not necessarily gain, but be very comfortable with our ridership? So right now I'm just seeing the graph continue to increase, which is great, but I'm just trying to get a threshold concept. And that's not necessarily for now, but maybe you could add that in, Brian, if possible. And once again, I'm seeing continually the 18 to 19 scheduled look ridership extremely low. And is there ever any consideration, or when will that consideration through the Transit Committee be brought up towards possibly removing that ridership and as such reducing costs?
Brian.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Lauder. I guess I'll address the first comment on the revenue of the transit system as compared to our operating costs. I can indicate that there's probably no transit system in the country that operates at a profit, and that includes the TTC in Toronto. But I can give you those comparisons between revenue on a monthly basis and a ridership or a transit cost per month, just to see where, just for your information, where we are, and that can be added for sure. The second part, I'll need a little clarification. You were talking about a specific stop or stops?
No, basically, if you look at the schedule, the 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. is at 0.19%, and it's always been extremely low. And I'm just thinking, with the transit board that we have, mixed between Penetanguishene and Midland staff and council and et cetera, is there ever any consideration with respect to possibly removing that time frame, so we'd start at 6 in the morning and only go to 5, only go to 6, as opposed to going all the way to 7 o'clock at night.
Yes, absolutely. We do, our transit service only operates until 5:30, actually, on most weekdays, and actually it stops at 4:30 on Saturdays. So it's probably just an error that we should probably actually remove that column, because it's actually a 0 at all times, because we're not actually operating the system during that time. The early morning hours, it is fairly low as well. And I think that comment has been raised before about maybe starting the system a little bit later in the day. And I think that's comments come up at the Transit Committee meeting as well. And the idea is to, once we have about 18 months of data at our disposal, to make some recommendations in terms of how we're going to move forward with the schedule, and possibly some route changes as we go into perhaps a negotiation phase to negotiate the next contract that we have with Midland, which is up in approximately 1 year's time.
Thanks, Brian. Mayor Marshall, you had a hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's 2 questions now, because Councillor Lauder got me looking at this chart. So be interesting, Brian, to see what the ridership is from 7 in the morning till 8. That's missing on that data. It'll be an interesting chunk of data. But my question goes more to, what for the Transit Committee to change a stop or add a stop, what would that take? So we have an opportunity at the PGH Health Hub for a clinic to go in there, and so one of the requests was, would the town of Penetanguishene look at putting a stop there if that clinic should go in? So what is the process by which we would entertain that opportunity, but in general, what is the process for us to look at changing routes or tweaking things?
Absolutely. Through Mr. Chair to your worship, those types of changes are handled typically through our committee. We've also added a few since the inception of the transit service. We added an additional stop on the way out of town at the Village Square Mall, which I believe has actually worked out very well. Also an additional stop at the Superstore as well, which is also one of those requests that we've been able to meet with our ridership. So the Penetanguishene General Hospital Health Hub was actually, I'm adding it to our agenda, which we're meeting, I believe, in July, and that'll be a topic of discussion.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions on this item by anybody? Seeing none, a mover for this item, Councillor Lauder and Mayor Marshall. No further discussion. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That item is carried. These matters for consideration. Number 1 is a verbal update from Brian regarding the Main Street sewage treatment plant. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Right now, we have awarded our work packages, RFQs, regarding the mechanical, electrical, general construction, metalwork deficiencies that we have taken from the contractor, and we have now awarded all of those packages to our contractors, which are now ready to begin construction and rectification of those deficiencies on site, which we're expecting to be between 8 and 10 weeks in duration.
Thank you, Brian. Questions on this item for Brian? Thank you. Number 2 is the Number 2 is a Navy Lane sanitary pump station upgrades project update. It's recommended that option 2 is outlined within the staff report be approved, and that $91,847 required for the project be financed through the Wastewater Life Cycle Reserve. A mover on this item. Councillor Rose. Seconder. Councillor Roux. Brian, you had a detailed great report. If you don't mind giving us a synopsis on that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In December of last year, we did receive, at the conclusion of the detailed design phase for the project, the Navy Lanes Pump Station Upgrades Project, revised cost estimates, which had the construction cost at approximately $120,000 over and above the original pre-detailed design cost estimate. A number of items that were caught during the detailed design phase were included within that cost increase, primarily due to the shoring required at the location and the SCADA upgrades that required as part of the project. A detailed cost estimate has been attached to the report for Council's information. And we're recommending that we proceed with the project with the additional funding. We have, through the review of the project financing, found we can utilize some DC funds, wastewater DC funds, for this project to reduce the funds required from 172 to the 90,000 in change that is required as part of the wastewater life cycle reserve. And we're recommending that we approve the project to be passed on to the tender phase, but we would like to get some direction from council on how they want to proceed, as we are in excess of our budget.
Thanks, Brian. So this item's been before council for quite some time. We've had some lengthy discussion on this item. And I think thanks to Brian, he brought this up a few weeks ago in our little huddle previous, and he mentioned that previous to going to RFP, it was recognized that it was going to be above our budget amount, and he wanted to come back to council and inform us because we knew we were going to be over budget when we released the RFP. So I think good work was done catching that beforehand. Brian, just for clarity, this item does have an increase to the excess amount will come from reserve. So whether we do it this year or next year has no impact to taxation this year. So like you identified, would be DCs and or combination with reserves?
That's correct. It is a wastewater funding project, so there is no taxation funds associated with this project. The DC reserve funds was found as part of our financing review as part of completing the report for the project. There is a growth component to this project, so we are, and I've confirmed with our DC consultant that it is reasonable to use wastewater DC reserve funds that are allocated to a similar type project within our background study. So those funds can be used for the project. So that's what I'm proposing as part of the financing of this project to utilize, in addition to the excess wastewater life cycle reserve funds.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions on this item? Councillor Saunders.
Question, Mr. Chair. I was going to move the motion.
Sorry, we do. Councillor Rose and Councillor Roux. Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Roux.
Just a question through to Brian. Brian, what's the percentage between the SCADA and the dewatering cost-wise?
To clarify, Councillor Leroux, percentage increase?
Yeah, what's the difference between, like, the cost between the two? Which is the higher cost?
The dewatering and the shoring was definitely the highest, and SCADA was second, I believe.
Any further questions on this item? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That item is carried. 3 is a preventive road maintenance. Reclamate Asphalt Rejuvenator recommended that council accept the sole source quotation submitted by Superior Road Maintenance for an estimated cost of $31,138.58. Net HST and HST rebate. Mover? Councillor Rose. Seconder? Councillor Mayotte. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 4 is the implementation of a new utility locate protocol with HapAmp Elmville Limited. Recommend that council enter into an agreement with HapAmp Elmville Limited for the implementation of a new alternate locate agreement, and that the clerk be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for approval. Mover? Councillor Rose. Seconder? Deputy Mayor. Brian, a quick one. This is going to reduce staff time on doing locates. Is the principle of this agreement?
That's correct, and it's actually has a bit of a dual benefit to the contractor as well, as it will speed up the locate time, which can be between 7 and 10 days.
Good. Any questions for anybody on this item? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That item is carried. Number 5 is a supervisory control and data acquisition upgrade for the Water Division. It's recommended that council approve the quotation from CompuSolve of $7,616.04, excluding HST, to supply and install the SCADA system hardware, and that council approve the quotation from Aramosa Engineering of $17,690, excluding HST, to provide SCADA software and integration. And finally, that council approve the monthly maintenance and licensing fee from CompuSolve of $217.95, excluding HST. A mover. Councillor Roux. Seconder? Councillor Rose. Brian, Mo did a great job tonight in telling us the importance. My understanding from this is compliance and monitoring and measuring and keeping up with that, but if you can just give us a quick update to confirm that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, precisely that. The SCADA system at the Water Division building at 22 Centennial Drive acts as a hub to monitor all of the stations. So the Payette, Centennial Drive Water Tower, the standpipe reservoirs at Payette, the reservoir system, and at Robert Street West, also at the Robert Street East station as well. This provides a monitoring, off-site monitoring, allows the operators to actually control the pumps and set points for each of these stations remotely. And it actually provides data tracking and trending for the Water Division system so that we can remain compliant with our DWQMS system and our water license.
Thanks, Brian. And this was a budget item. What's the impact to our budget amount for this item?
The total cost,
I just mean from budget, Brian. Like, are we in a surplus deficit? Like, how does that?
we're
from
approximately $9,000 in surplus.
Oh, good job. Any questions on this item from Councillor Lauder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern is just the numbers. Basically, if we look at the CompuSol monthly maintenance cost, $217.95, that's in. Then we look at the Aeromo's software and programming cost, $17,690, that's in. So the discussion is with respect to the CompuSol hardware costs at $76.16.04. And then Aeromosa also made a request to do this job, but then there's a sentence in here that says, with CompuSol's additional fees of approximately $4,000 to $5,000. So it just, I'm staggered. I don't understand this because it sounds like to do all of the hardware, CompuSol is only going to charge $76.16, but if Aeromosa does the hardware, then they can do all the hardware, and CompuSol will still charge us $4,000 to $5,000. Is there an explanation there?
Brian?
Actually, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Lauder, I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding on the, as part of the getting quotation process that our chief water operator took, he actually asked Aeromosa to provide an all-inclusive price to do the hardware and the software and the SCADA integration all in one price. It was actually in excess of the price that we're actually recommending tonight. So he actually asked CompuSolve to provide the hardware quote, which was actually less than the actual all-in price for Aeromosa. So we're actually recommending the low bid.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, and I'm voting for this, but at the same time, I was just confused with that additional fees, the way it was presented in the report.
Yep.
And so it led to confusion, understanding hardware, software, and cost to install. So,
yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Brian. Councillor Lauder, are you good with that? Any other questions on this item by anybody? We have a mover and a second. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That item is carried. Number 6 is the Public Works Department proposed 2-year extension of the 2012 line painting contract 05-12 for the years 2017 and 2018. It's recommended that additional 2-year extension of the 2012 line painting contract to JDM Lines for total cost of $34,000 per year, excluding HST, be approved. I know we looked at this a couple years ago. JDM's done a great job, and they've held the price to us. And I know, speaking to Brian, that this item will be the last time we'll renew this at that price, and that will go to tender at the end of this further extension. I move on this item. Councillor Seconder, Councillor Mayotte. Discussion. Councillor Lauder. Punch. Mayor Marshall.
Excuse me. So I'll be voting in support of this motion, but Brian, I'm just wondering, in terms of their line painting, it seems to me like we want to do our main street and our parking lot, so we want to look pretty and pristine as best we can. And it seems to me that our main street and the main areas of town are the last ones to actually get the line painting. And when, in my mind, it should be one of the first ones we do, because that's where everybody comes into town, and that's our smiling coming into town as best we can until we get the main street reconstructed. So is there any way that we can impose some scheduling deadline dates so that the town looks great for, let's say, the May 2-4 weekend? Maybe it's an unreasonable request. I'm just asking out loud.
Brian?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to your worship. Actually, it's our mandate to actually have the major routes, meaning Robert Street from end to end and Main Street done before the May 2-4 weekend. That's our mandate every year. We try to do that, to have that done before everything else. So that's what we're going to strive for this week or this year as well.
Thanks, Brian. Does that answer? No, go ahead.
Sorry, I heard the word try to get done, and so I'd say we've not hit that benchmark. So is there penalties that they pay if it doesn't get done?
Yeah, we certainly can explore that for sure. It definitely being the last extension of this contract, I think it would be incumbent upon the contractor to meet those dates.
I kind of agree with that philosophy. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? We have a mover and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That item is carried. Before I read the referral items, do we have any further additions or revisions to the referral items? I have one. Brian, you mentioned tonight about the transit contract's going to expire next year. Just memory serves me correct. Is that fall of next year, spring of next year? When does that expiry happen?
The transit agreement was in place the beginning of February of 2016 was when the transit service started, so it will be expiring the same time in 2018.
I'm wondering if there's an appetite. There must be an extension clause that was built in that contract that we could look at, because I don't think we've got enough data. We've only got less than a year's worth of data. And as opposed to making this a political decision, if we could look at an extension option, so we get 2 years of good data, and then the new council can look at it instead of making this political. So I wonder if we make a referral item that transit contract renewal options, that you can look at that and come back to us with that, if everyone would welcome this opportunity. So I'll move that if anyone would like to. Mayor Marshall will second that. So I'll read the referral items that the Transportation Environmental Services section would endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Thompson's Road extension options, the Severntown Environmental Association Park Maintenance Plan, Pantanguishing Bus Identification, Champlain Road weight limits, resident reporting system, and the transit contract renewal options. A mover. Councillor Roux and Councillor Mayotte. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Question period from the media and public. Seeing none, your worship is back to you.
Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to the Deputy Mayor to take us to the finish line at Finance Corporate Services. Deputy Mayor, please. I've obviously flipped a page somewhere here. All right, we'll go to planning. I will follow your wise advice, and we'll go turn it over to Councillor Lauder. Thanks.
Thank you, Worship. For the consent agenda, recommended action that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Number 1, Huronia Animal Control Monthly Comparative Report, 2017. And 2, Sustainability Plan Steering Committee, SPSC, meeting minutes dated March 9th, 2017. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rawson, second. Councillor Leroux, discussion. Oh no, let's call for a vote. Consent. Thank you. Matters for consideration. Zoning bylaw amendment, ZA 3/2016, accessory buildings. Results of public meeting staff report, PD 17-27. Recommended action that a bylaw respecting accessory buildings be presented at next regular council meeting for passage. If I could turn that over to our our Director of Planning.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lauder. So you do have a report on your agenda package that was compiled as a result of the public meeting held at the last council meeting. Recall we didn't have any additional comments submitted, or sorry, we had additional comments submitted at that public meeting, which I have tried to describe and analyze within the staff report. There was 2 main concepts proposed by the amendment. The first being that should council consider any changes that would tie the size of accessory buildings to the size of the main buildings on the property. You'll see in my analysis of that I'm not actually recommending that we do something along those lines. At this point, given that the areas in which we're proposing to change the rules around accessory buildings are typically in the rural or shoreline areas, and that those properties have seen, our larger properties have been seen a transformation from seasonal cottages to more permanent residents, and the slope and the topography in those locations sometimes make it difficult to build large main buildings. So I felt it may be a little too cumbersome for that type of regulation, and put some additional costs on the property owners themselves to force them to put an addition on the house. So that's that's the one comment. The second one had to do with that the proposed changes to accessory buildings may limit the ability of a property to support an accessory building. I didn't believe that would be the case, that there would still be sufficient areas within a property so that an accessory building could be, an accessory dwelling unit could be provided. So from those comments, I've recommended a draft bylaw that's attached as part of your as part of the staff report, be presented to council at the next meeting. And just to recap again, that we would change the rules around accessory buildings for all properties in the sort of outside areas in town, not the urban core of the town of Penetanguishene, to be 10% of the lot area to a maximum of 100 square meters, and then specifically for the rural zone that we would increase the maximum ground floor area of accessory buildings to be 150 square meters. So I would be happy to answer any questions or comments with respect to this report.
Any comments or questions for our Deputy Director? Yes, you are.
Just for those folks that still have measured by feet and inches, so 100 square meters is about just under 1,100 square feet, and 150 square meters is about 1,500 square feet, just so people listening can get a sense of what we're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Call for the vote. In favor? Opposed? Great. Did I not ask for that at the beginning? Sorry. Let's have a mover for ZA 3/2016. Your Worship, and second by Councillor Saunders. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? Perfect. Passed. Carried.
If I could, just for a moment, we have watchers out there, and I guess one of our mics on over there. Make sure their mics are off. I guess what our staff has said. One of the ladies in front of the window have their mic on. So we have ladies at both sides. So if you just want to make sure those off, that's all set. Good. Thanks.
Thank you. Item number 2, the zoning bylaw amendment, ZA 4/2016, dwelling units in the commercial general, bracket CG zone, staff report PD 17/28, recommended action that a bylaw respecting the dwelling units in the commercial general zone be presented at the next regular council meeting for passage. If I call it, once again, now call for a vote. We'll call for a mover. Councillor Rawson, and second, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Prior to discussion, I'll call for our Director.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lauder. You do have the staff report in front of you. You'll recall from the public meeting, we didn't actually have anybody provide comments to committee or council at that time. However, I related some inquiries that I had received from residents or business owners and property owners in the downtown, and was able to ease some of their concerns with respect to what the town was attempting to accomplish with his zoning bylaw. So there were no outstanding comments not in support of this application. You do have a draft bylaw as part of that report, and that would be the bylaw that would be presented at the next council meeting.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Against? Carried. Prior to reading the referrals for upcoming agenda and staff, are there any changes, additions, deletions, comments? I'd like to make one, and I had a resident contact me regarding the fire permit costs that are attributed to various burning permits for residents. And he asked that we review the topic, and so I'd like to put forth an item that we talk about this in council. So, fire permit review, I'd like to add, if I have a seconder. Councillor Rawson?
I don't want to second it, but that's an FCS item. It's a bylaw. Fire bylaws FCS.
Actually, since it's a bylaw municipal. Yes, please, Madam Clerk.
There's an overlap. I mean, I think with all of our bylaws, I think that the intention was because of planning and development, our director of planning development supervises our bylaw officer, that it would come through planning and development, but it can come through, I mean, really, it crosses boundaries. So it'll be obviously prepared by all levels of staff but it can come to finance as well.
Is the choice, it's totally up to me. I was recommended by clerk today to do that there. Yes, so we'll do it in finance or do it now?
What's your choice, Councillor?
Okay, thank you. I'll do it now. So I'll read the future, that Planning and Community Development Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agenda and staff. Future agenda items, Thompson Road West Extension, spring of 2017. Development charges, CIP, targeted incentives and opportunities, summer of 2017. Land inventory analysis, the spring of 2017. Agribusiness in the industrial zone, April of 2017. Secondary suite report, summer 2017. Wake in Penetanguishene Harbor, May 2017, and Ojibwe Landing update, June 2017, and the newly added fire permit review. We'll add a date for that next council of the whole. If I can have a mover. Sorry? CAO, sorry?
Mr. Chair, just, I mean, to me, it really doesn't matter where it lands, but at the end of the day, it's going to be our fire chief and our treasurer that will be looking at this from a composite fee bylaw perspective. I think, not to disagree with anyone that's already spoke, but it can certainly stay in P&D, but at the end of the day, it will be our fire chief and our treasurer that are looking at the composite fee bylaw from that perspective. So my suggestion would be FCS, but I'm also comfortable to take committee's direction.
And I'm totally good with FCS, so I don't mind taking it out of P&D. If you can excuse me and not have to mention it again, we'll just bring it up by FCS. Your Worship?
Thank you. So I'm going to vote against this. We've had this fire discussion a couple of times, because we get some pushback from residents going, I don't like a price point. We're going to visit every bylaw we have. We're going to revisit decisions that are made. That's problematic. But if we are going to go ahead with this, and I get the sense that the council is going to vote in favor of this, last time it was contentious. We had a room full of people who didn't want smoking at all. So we want to make sure that this gets handled properly, because last time it was quite contentious, and in the 4 o'clock start and the $50 fines were compromises, right? So it was a compromise position by everybody involved. So if we're going to revisit it, let's make sure that we have the right conversation with the people, and we got broader than a couple of folks on Facebook, Merpin. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor LaRue?
Thank you. Your Worship, are we discussing or talking about smoking, or are we talking about fire?
Fire. The issue was burning fire in the smoking wax.
I actually received something from a ratepayer myself in regards to the same deal, but there wasn't a concern about whether what it was creating or whatnot. Their concern was the fee, the cost, that they stating that all other municipalities in the area and a few more, the fees were much less than Penetanguishene. So I think that if it's going to FC, it should be going in regards to the fee schedule.
I think that would be totally unfair to those who don't want to have, they want $0 because they don't want to have permits. That's my issue, right? So we have residents who don't want fires to be permitted in the town of Penetanguishene anywhere at any time. We've had this discussion twice last term of council, so I can just tell you it's kind of like Groundhog Day. We've been here, done that, and I'm a little battle scarred on it a couple of times. So if we're going to have the conversation, let's have the right one. That's my only point.
Councillor Saunders.
It appears that we have a mix of both spring, fall, etc., and months with respect to this. Now, you heard Councillor LaRue earlier today make reference to the fact that sometimes this gets a little vague, a little confusing. And I'm wondering if we could agree around the table with a friendly change that all future agenda items will be attached to a month to bring them forward. Now, we can spread the work out across several months if that's appropriate, but that way we get past all this confusion that we had recently with winter 2017. Was that the end of the year or the beginning of the year? And so if there's agreement around the table, Mr. Chair, that we could do this in a friendly fashion, then for future agendas, we could bring forward an appropriate month with which to bring the items forward.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders, and Your Worship.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Saunders, but I'm just wondering maybe as the resolve, because we went from month to month because it was problematic, but if we went quarter, so end of quarter, like quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, we all understand that's March 31st, June 31st, so on and so forth. So would quarters be better? Because they're definable. Q1 is March 31st. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor, then Seo.
Yes, if I may remind council that that is an item on our future agenda items, and the CAO was charged with bringing something forward. So I think we should allow that to unfold. But the CAO did want to speak to it, so.
CAO, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I was more or less going to say what Deputy Mayor said. If committee will recall, I did speak to this previously, and I certainly will address this in the referrals item report that will be coming forward, particularly with respect to the timing. In terms of this and the inconsistencies, we had every intent to keep it consistent and for the time being at the very least. But we certainly, until that referral report comes, we will change this to be consistent.
Great. So at this point, without further comment, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Questions from the media and public? Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Now over to Finance and Corporate Services and the Deputy Mayor to take us to the finish line. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our consent agenda, we have several items. Number 1, a correspondence from the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. Second is Youth Council minutes. And our third item under consent is Lyme disease environmental surveillance, a report that came forward from Board of Health, Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. So a mover. Okay, Councillor, I guess I should ask if there is an item that someone would like to pull. I would like to speak to the Lyme disease one, so I'll call for a vote for the other 2 items. Councillor Mayette and Councillor Leroux. All those in favor? Carried. The report that is included from the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit on Lyme disease, I think is extremely important, and I would suggest that members of the public go to our website and try to download that report. Lyme disease is on the upswing. It's not going away. With climate change, it's becoming more prevalent out there. So it is a disease, or it is something that is very hard to diagnose, and extremely important to be very diligent when you're out walking in the bush. For sure, when you come in, make sure that you have a look or have somebody look on your body to make sure that there isn't a tick. The ticks have, they dig into the skin, and they can stay there on your skin for upwards of 2 days. So it's very important to be diligent and make sure you check things out. So I just wanted to bring that forward, Your Worship, just to give people an opportunity to go to the website and download or have a look at the report that I brought forward. So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder on this particular item. Moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor, what's your name again? Councillor Rawson. All those in favor? Carried. Oh, we had to have some humor. Thank you. Move on to matters for consideration. Requests for waiver of property tax penalties and interest. Recommended action That option, which is blank at the moment, related to the request for waiver of property tax penalties and interest, be approved. Excuse me. This has come before council prior. One of our councillors asked that it be looked at again, so it is before us. I would ask for a mover and a seconder to get it on the table for discussion. Councillor Saunders and Councillor Rawson. Is there discussion? Okay, if you'd like to speak to an option. You move.
So I'll move option 1, and I'll speak after a sec.
Okay, and Councillor Saunders, do you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Thank you. Councillor Rawson.
So I think great work was done on our staff part on this. I think we did a great job looking at this, but the one thing our treasurer told us that resonated quite well was that we followed our process. The treasurer and the finance department has done a great job to provide further opportunities, and something tells me there was a lot of people on this program that could benefit from relief. And something tells me a significant number, like double-digit number of people that were on this type of program. So I think once we allow an ability to provide relief, then we're providing it to opportunity for lots of people. So the right thing here is say sorry. And people like my colleague to the left calls me Grump. That's why I'm going to move it.
Thank you, Councillor Rawson. Further discussion? Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I totally respect, and in fact, originally this came forward as options 1, 2, and 3, and I was originally this came forward as 1, 2, and 3 a couple of weeks ago, and I voted for the option 1. There was a lot of discussion, just so that council is fully aware, of option 4, and we went back and asked staff to craft that option. And basically, what option 4 says is to, in fact, exactly the same as option 1. We're going to waive the. We're going to decline the owner's request, and as such there will be full penalties and interest. Option 4 is actually saying, yes, we are going to keep those penalties and interest in play, and they must pay all the penalties and interest as of this moment in time, but we're not going to continue charging interest from this moment forward. However, that's interest and penalties from this moment forward, but we will be charging all of our taxes and water bills and everything else from this moment forward. So option 4 is doing the exact same thing as number 1. It's just, it's adding the fact that we are not going to further penalize and further charge interest on any outstanding amounts, but she has to pay everything. With option 1, just to clarify, with option 1, we waive her, and if she doesn't pay everything tomorrow or as of March 22nd, then we are still going to accumulate more interest and penalties on her account.
Councillor, we do have option 1 that's on the floor, so I think we need to deal with that first, and then we can go to, well, but, a discussion on option 1, but you've brought option 4 into the picture as well.
Well, I was discussing the concepts.
Okay, just the concepts. All right, thank you. I would like to say that I think, although I feel for this individual, there are another 150 individuals in our municipality that are facing maybe even a more dire situation than what has been brought forward this evening. We all know that it takes 3 years, and your 4th year, you're in tax arrears. In this particular case, this situation is 2 years. It's not 3 years or 4 years. So personally, I think that we're going to embark, if we approve this, we're on a very slippery slope, and there will be many more that will come forward and want the same sanction as what we're providing here. So I will not be supporting this. Is there further discussion? Seeing. Pardon? Oh, because option 1 is, would you please,
is decline the program. I will be supporting option 1 with no caveats. Further discussion? Councillor Leroux?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I also will be supporting option 1, as I believe that in not doing so, we are going to be setting a precedent that we don't want.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of option 1? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We'll go to number 2, terms of reference for scholarships. That the new terms of reference for the Town of Penetanguishene scholarships are approved as presented below under option 2, in that the former terms of reference under Bylaw 2011-96 be repealed. And finally, that the Town of Penetanguishene participate in the County of Simcoe bursary program at a cost of $1,000 funded from Council's contingency fund. Could I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Rawson, seconded by His Worship. Discussion. Councillor Rawson.
All I want to say, Madam Chair, is thanks to Carrie. I think she did a great job on this, and I know we booted back a little bit, but she did a lot of good work in digging in, and I apologize I was a little late getting back with some responses to her, but she did a great job, and thanks.
Thank you. Further discussion? I agree. Job well done. So I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Referrals to upcoming agenda and staff. Before I read the list, is there any other, one item that we need to add is fire permit cost review. Is that satisfactory, Councillor Lauder? Thank you. I need a seconder for that. Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Saunders. All those in favor? Gotta ask. Our discussion. Oh, opposed. Okay. Oh, all right. Opposed. So recorded, Your Worship. Thank you. I will read the list. That the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Community engagement initiatives, land sale policy review, taxi license review, smoking policy on parks and town property, election 2018 timelines, composite fee schedule comparison, insurance and joint RFP review, fire services review, and referral item review. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Councillor Mayette. All those in favor? Carried. Opposed? Oh, God. I always get the end of the evening and we're all kind of question period from the media. Your Worship, back to you.
Thank you very much. I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Rawson, Councillor Leroux, all in favor. And that is carried. Good night, everybody.